crush your enemies.
They drew first blood, not me.
See them driven before you.
Oh, my user.
And hear the lamentation of your women.
But I pity the fool.
Glitter in the dark near the 10-house gate.
Phone home.
They're here.
Oh, real light sleeper, child.
Welcome to Vintage Video, where we're rewatching the 80s so you don't have to. We'll be reviewing every major film release of the 1980s in chronological order, overanalyzing what you've seen and spoiling what you haven't. I'm Patrick O'Reilly.
I'm Jesse Bayless.
And I'm Richard Wells.
And today we're discussing Evilspeak, released February 26th, 1982. It was written by Joseph Garofalo and Eric Weston, from a story by Garofalo, directed by Eric Weston, and released by Warner Brothers. It's crazy that Warner Brothers released this.
On that subject, it's my very first note. I hate this Warner Brothers logo.
You do? I like this one.
I've always hated this Warner Brothers
logo. The one where it's
logo.
the W's inside of each other flying towards the screen?
Yeah, where it's just like a line, and a dot.
Yeah, I like that.
No.
Minimalist.
I think it's gross.
Wonderful. Evilspeak was shot in 3 weeks in Santa Barbara and South Central Los Angeles. The production was granted an interim agreement with SAG that allowed them to continue filming through the 1980 actors' strike. The title, Evilspeak, is a play on the popular contemporary phrase, computer speak, which is how laymen referred to the occasionally indecipherable vocabulary of computer specialists.
Wow, that's hilarious.
It was more popular at the time than it is now, obviously, because now you're not a magician if you know how to work a computer. But I also like that the word evil in the title, the font for evil, is like this like satanic font, and then the speak part looks like those early computer like bubbly fonts.
Yeah.
The filmmakers intended to premiere the film at Cannes, and it brought in an impressive $400,000 in a week-long limited domestic run, so it actually did well for itself. Actor Clint Howard claims the film's original cut contained much more gore and nudity than was even included in the subsequently released uncut DVD, but the fully uncensored version is likely lost to the sands of time.
Where would you get more nudity in this script? There's only one chick, and she's pretty nude in it.
Yeah, I think there was a lot more to that scene. And then there's also...
There's the woman at the beginning, I guess, too, kind of. She's topless, but...
Yeah. But even that stuff wasn't in the theatrical cut. That was from the uncut home video releases.
I'm assuming there would have been more stuff with the girls when they go down into the secret dungeon.
Yeah, maybe.
Spoilers.
Even censored as it was, Evilspeak landed in Section 1 of the UK's video nasty list on account of gore and Satanism. Anton LaVey, founder and high priest of the Church of Satan, was a vocal supporter of the film and fully endorsed its portrayal of Satanism. He even recommended it to his followers. We start with a prologue over black. And Satan said to the man of God, "What would you do tomorrow if you allowed me to die today? What vocation would you pursue if my name disappeared?" Khalil Gibran. We fade in on a crowded beach. A priest in a white hood leads a gathering of people to a man in a black hood waiting in a tide pool carrying a sword with a pentacle on the hilt. The man in black is Lorenzo Esteban, played by Richard Mole, and he's being banished from Spain by the Holy Church and forbidden from saying Mass. Even his followers are condemned from the land until they have answered for their sins. While he accepts the priest's ruling, he grips in one hand a leather-bound book with a bejeweled pentacle medallion on the cover. When the priest finishes his statement, Esteban spits in his face and walks like 20 feet down the beach before stopping to draw a pentagram in the sand with his sword.
Okay, so they're exiling him. Presumably he's still in the vicinity of Spain?
Maybe, or this could have been a badly illustrated transition from Spain to Massachusetts.
Oh.
Or he just walked down the beach to the border of Portugal and it's like, okay,
fine.
I'm in Portugal now.
But the rest of the film doesn't take place in Portugal. So he started his church overseas in America.
That's true.
So did they go all the way across the ocean with him on a boat and then banish him?
Maybe they just swam. These people are magic.
Just a little confused about the geographical...
Yeah.
I don't even know.
But the way it's portrayed on screen, it literally looks like he just walked out of earshot and started preaching again.
So wait, is the academy supposed to be in Massachusetts?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'm basing that on the fact that it's called the West Andover Military Academy or something like that.
Because it was all shot in Santa Barbara.
Right, yeah. Yep. We cut right to the performance of a black mass, complete with a bronze dragon figurine and an upside-down crucifix. He calls to his congregation for a sacrifice, and they put forward a young woman. He sits her down and sprinkles Eucharist crumbs over her head. He turns her to face his chanting followers, tears off her clothes, and lifts his sword high in the air to cleave her head from her shoulders, and we match cut to a soccer ball being kicked high in the air over a field outside modern-day West Andover Military Academy.
So this head chop is amazing.
It's really great.
Because she looks up.
Her eyes change, right before he hits it.
It's like she like opens her eyes and she looks up. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
When you're so used to seeing like just like a hard attempt at a match cut of a prosthetic head being lopped off, that was like, oh my God, this was so perfect.
Yeah.
Well, that's part of the deleted scenes. Her head actually got chopped off.
Yeah, that was real. As the rest of the soccer match plays out, we see a young Clint Howard as Stanley Coopersmith on the field, clumsily flubbing a few plays and costing his team the game, to the disappointment of his fellow players, coach, and the crowd.
Nice game, Cooper Dick.
Very clever.
Yeah, it's the laziest nickname.
Coopersmith looks up from where he finished the game, face down in the grass, to smile at a girl in the stands who smiles back. But from the first frame, it's already deadly apparent that everyone here hates him. Well, almost everyone. He's comforted now by his only friend, Kowalski, played by Haywood Nelson.
Hey, Slick. Wasn't your fault, man. Tell that to them. Oh, it was a good game. Come on.
In the locker room later, his teammates, led by his primary bully Bubba, hassle Coopersmith on his terrible performance, but he reminds them that the coach said he's allowed to play regardless of performance. It's like, shut up, guys. I'm allowed to play. I get to keep losing the game for us. Coach said. The argument spirals out of control until Coach shows up to end it.
Hey, Coach, are you really going to play him against John Paul Jones? Everybody plays sports here, Bubba. Colonel's orders. I guess that's another game we're going to lose, huh, Coach?
John Paul Jones being the historical naval officer from the Continental Navy and often referred to as the father of the American Navy, not to be confused with John Paul Jones, the bassist and keyboardist for Led Zeppelin, whose middle name is not different. I just emphasized it like it was. The coach pulls the angry teammate aside to remind him that the colonel has a deeply unpopular policy which mandates that every player spend 2 of every 4 quarters on the field, forgetting apparently that soccer is played in halves, not quarters. He says he can't take Coopersmith off the field.
However, something happened to Coopersmith, so he couldn't play.
Wink, wink. Wordlessly suggesting the bullies on the team cripple the boy to take him out of the lineup. Bubba reads him loud and clear. In the showers later, the boys continue hassling Coopersmith, this time poking fun at his being an orphan after the death of his parents. We cut to the colonel escorting a woman named Mrs. Caldwell around the campus. He tells her this once profitable campus has fallen on hard times, and a once discriminating application process is no more.
There was a time when only the sons of the right families attended our academy here, but now, due to our financial condition, we're obliged to take in welfare cases like Coopersmith.
It's like every single fucking person takes a second in their day to rag on this guy.
Yeah.
I don't quite understand how welfare cases would be beneficial to the school. It's
because
not
the government pays them extra to accept him.
Because our government is notoriously generous when it comes to paying for kids' education.
Well, I think it's just basically he's getting a payment from the government for his parents being dead. And so they're able to pay less to put him through military school than they would to support him outside of this.
Do you remember the last time we had a military institution that was in financial difficulties?
Was it up the academy?
No, more recent than that.
Oh,
They were closing it down.
Oh, TAPS.
That's right.
I have been informed that Bunker Hill Academy is to be closed.
Now we cut to the campus chapel where Coopersmith walks down the aisle in search of Reverend Jameson. The location for these church scenes was a condemned church in south central LA, and a passing priest saw stagehands doing superficial repairs to the building for the shoot and mistook it for a full reconstruction. He dropped to his knees to thank God for saving the church. Nobody corrected him because it was super awkward, and the church was burned down shortly after production wrapped.
Or for production?
Possibly as a result of the production. Very likely as a result of the production. Coopersmith pushes through a side door and wanders down some steps into a dungeon-esque chapel basement.
Reverend? Reverend Jameson?
In the course of his search, he's startled by a man lurching out of the shadows. This is Sarge, played by R.G. Armstrong, just chilling in a pitch-black basement for no reason. He demands answers. Coopersmith tries to explain that he was ordered to do some cleaning around the chapel cellar for punishment duty, and he was just looking for Reverend Jameson. Right on cue, the Reverend happens to show up to confirm Coopersmith's claims. We never delve into what exactly Coopersmith is being punished for, though.
Right.
Punishment?
Yes, and I want you to give him a hand.
What? I don't have enough to do as it is.
Coopersmith here will do all the work.
Okay.
So you don't want him to give him a hand. Why did you just say that? Back outside, the Colonel is finishing up Mrs. Caldwell's tour of the academy when they bump into Reverend Jameson. Caldwell asks about the historic chapel, and Jameson offers her a private tour of the structure, which he has thoroughly researched.
Now, it's never actually stated, but I'm assuming that this is Bubba's mother, since they have the same last name.
It is explicitly stated.
Okay, it is stated? Okay, yeah. I didn't remember.
Cleaning up in the basement, Coopersmith tries to roll a chalkboard under a moving blanket away from a wall, and accidentally pushes a brick from the wall into a hollow space behind it. He shines a flashlight through the hole and observes a forgotten crawl space. While upstairs, Jameson leads Mrs. Caldwell through the building. The lobby features a large oil painting of Father Esteban.
You see, the actual land that the school sits on was given to Esteban in an order of Spanish monks when they fled the Inquisition.
So apparently, Esteban either rebranded when he got to America, or he was very discreet about his Satan worship when he got here, and posed instead as an order of monks. Back downstairs, the sergeant wanders around drunkenly giggling at Coopersmith while he toils in dusty darkness. Coopersmith pries more bricks loose and points a flashlight through the cobwebbed corridor of the small chamber. Inside, he finds the remains of a smaller satanic church within the structure and a chorus of whispers on the track chanting Satanus, Latin for Satan. Which was also being chanted during the Black Mass and the film's cold open. In his flashlight beam, we see a large table in the center of the room with a book set on top of it. Both are coated in thick dust. Elsewhere in the room, Coopersmith finds a small jar containing fluid and what looks like an undeveloped fetus.
Oh my God.
Coopersmith peels open the ancient book and waves his flashlight over its yellowing pages. He lights a handful of black candles on the shelf while he investigates. Coopersmith is interrupted in his search when a rat falls onto his shoulders, and he freaks out.
So, are the things he's finding down here, were they also walled off?
Yeah, all this stuff was walled off.
Because otherwise I'm just like, is Sarge just keeping science experiments? Like, what's happening?
This is my baby. This is my baby in this jar. I feed him a few flakes every day. I'm going to close up the jar.
It's like in Futurama. Yeah, head in a jar.
Coopersmith has to force open a door to escape the chamber, and we cut back to Reverend Jameson's walking tour of the chapel. He explains that Father Esteban was eventually executed, but not before promising to avenge his own death. Presumably he was killed after he was outed as a Satanist, in which case I might not hang his portrait in the lobby of my church, but I guess it's their choice. Back in the cellar, Coopersmith locates a dozen more ancient books, and behind a shelf of them, he spots Esteban's leather-bound book from the start of the film, with a bejeweled pentacle on the cover. Reverend Jameson returns Mrs. Caldwell to the Colonel just as her son Douglas, a.k.a. Bubba, comes down the steps to join them.
Mother's going now. Give her a kiss.
And Bubba obliges awkwardly. The Colonel reminds Mrs. Caldwell that the school hopes for financial security to properly educate her son, and she assures him they will.
I'll have a talk with the senator tonight. He's very big on military causes, especially tax-exempt ones.
Nice to have you.
And we never see her again. We never revisit this plot point. Back in Coopersmith's chamber, he's now surrounded by hundreds of lit candles. Coopersmith paces back and forth beside them when suddenly the fetus in the jar is showing signs of movement. He's terrified back against a wall as the fetus kicks around in the fluid and then punches through its cheesecloth lid. And at precisely the same time, a dusty arm punches through the wall Coopersmith is backed up against and wraps around his throat. He struggles to free himself from its grasp. When he does break free, Coopersmith speeds across the room and throws open a door leading to a tunnel full of glowing fog and a bright beam of light. At the opposite end of the hall, he sees Esteban, the dark priest from the beach at the start of the film, floating down the tunnel sword in hand. We hard cut to Coopersmith waking up in bed from an apparent nightmare, perhaps a vision. He realizes that the bullies have unplugged his clock to make him late for class. Racing across campus, he trips and throws his things all along the floor before jumping up and continuing to his Latin class. His instructor, Professor Hauptman, is disappointed.
You are late, Coopersmith. I hope you have an unimpeachable excuse.
Coopersmith doesn't bother, and Hauptman congratulates him on the correct answer, since no excuse would be acceptable.
Short of your being detained by visitors from outer space.
Coopersmith's classmates laugh as though the man has told a joke. Bubba, the bully, throws a full-on dart at the kid, and it stabs through the cover of Coopersmith's open textbook. The instructor outlines the lesson plan for the next week, while Coopersmith distracts himself with the pentacle book he stole from the Chamber of Secrets. Apparently, this Latin class also involves studying ancient battlefield maneuvers, as well as building actual models of the ancient tools of war. The instructor tells the class they need to be performing perfectly on all assignments, but Coopersmith is still distracted by deep moaning and whispering voices emanating from his book. The bell rings, and everyone but Coopersmith is excused. So he got here like 3 minutes before the end of class.
Right.
So why bother at that point? The instructor informs Coopersmith that he is to report to the colonel's office after this second late appearance in a single week.
Do not understand you, Coopersmith. You have a fine mind. If only you would apply yourself.
I do try, sir. Well, you know my model catapult? I'm using one of the computers to check my configurations, so it'll be really accurate.
Accurate, huh? You sure seem like a brain genius. Now, Coopersmith is excused, and we cut to him hammering away on a keyboard as a sort of AutoCAD blueprint glows with green lines on a black monitor. The computer used for the film was an Apple II, but most of these animations we see are rendered on a much more powerful computer and just displayed on the screen as opticals. He closes the catapult project and starts typing Latin text from Esteban's book into the screen, and we get an ominous sting in the score. Incredibly, the computer is able to translate the text to modern English. January 13th, 1520. I, Esteban, have come to know that the entire world is a domain of evil, ruled over by any evil spirit. And since the power that dominates the world is evil, then it follows that Satan must be God. He types out the next page for translation. February 20th, 1535. I, Esteban, have signed the Book of Death and touched the hand of my master Satan, through the rite of Black Mass. I wonder if Esteban's diary gets tired of him always leading by introducing himself. Every single entry is I, Esteban.
You know, though, I like that. Instead of like Dear Diary or
Mark's letter to the Corinthians.
Yeah. I also think it'd be funny if he's like, I, Esteban, apologize for the 15-year gap between this and my previous entry. Why is it suddenly 1535?
Been super busy lately. Sorry, guys.
A lot of black
Try
massing.
to write more often.
a lot of Satan, you know.
Hi, Esteban. Yeah, no shit. Coopersmith hammers out a third prompt and gets a third page of text. May 11th, 1541. They think to kill me, but Satan is my salvation. His magic is mine forever. I will return no matter what they do. I will return.
Death is but a door. Time is but a window. I'll be back.
Just before his head died.
Later in the dormitory, Coopersmith is walking down a hall and is ambushed by 4 larger boys. They whip his hat off his head and start shoving him around until his one friend Kowalski shows up to stop them. Bubba throws Coopersmith's hat out the window and threatens to throw Kowalski out after it. They shove him to the window and pin him against the sill, but he fights back. The bullying is interrupted by the Reverend approaching them.
Coopersmith, where's your hat?
I lost it.
We'll find it. The good Lord doesn't want you out of uniform. And neither do I.
We cut to Coopersmith's scheduled meeting with Colonel Kincaid.
Good of you to come, Private. Come inside. And leave your books out here.
Coopersmith sets his backpack on the secretary's desk, and Esteban's diary falls out into the wastebasket under her desk.
Now, this really bugs me, only because you think when he goes to retrieve his books...
He's going to notice that's gone.
The book that was on the top of the stack that was gone...
Yeah. The colonel claims that Coopersmith's IQ has tested incredibly high, and he's disappointed that the young man has been unable to navigate the academy's social circles. The colonel threatens to monitor Coopersmith closely and make a soldier of him. While Coopersmith accepts the dressing down, the colonel's secretary notices the ancient book that Coopersmith dropped in her bin by mistake. The colonel isn't done, though. Not willing to stop at a lecture, he swats Coopersmith across the ass with a switch to give him a daily reminder of his threat. It's a switch or a cane, I couldn't really tell.
Or a riding crop or
constantly
something.
Out of frame, yeah. Outside, the secretary looks super horned up by the sound of Coopersmith's punishment. Later, Coopersmith is slopping the campus hogs While back in the colonel's office, the secretary is trying to pry the jewels off the cover of the diary. Seemingly in response to her efforts, the pigs Coopersmith is looking after go crazy, and he struggles to escape their pen before they attack him. Eventually, the secretary gives up on the diary, and the pigs calm down, so we cut away to a team of bullies sabotaging Coopersmith's catapult model. We're never going to come back to this, really. He rolls into the dorms, still caked in pig shit, and walks right up to his bed to just lay down like that,
Right?
without so much as a quick wipe down.
Oh, God, this bothered me so much.
An officer arrives at the building with passes for students intending to party in town tonight.
All those going to town, report to the quadrangle in 5 minutes. Anderson, Baker.
Do you guys recall the last time we heard someone refer to a quad as a quadrangle?
Oh, man.
Oh, gosh. Was it the one where they were faking the student shooting?
Yes, it was.
What movie was that?
It was a school-related title. End of the semester. You take,
Graduation day?
You
No.
take your...
Final exam.
There you go.
Sheriff, this is Lanier College calling. There's been a multiple shooting on the campus quadrangle.
Hey, graduation day.
There you go, yeah.
Also at the end of a semester.
We cut right to a crowded roller rink. Back at the dorms, Coopersmith picks up his catapult and it falls to pieces. Understanding immediately that he's been pranked, he scours the area for Esteban's book, but it's not here. But we never see like the consequences of this catapult being destroyed. Right. We never see him working on it again. No one mentions it for the rest of the film. He rushes out to the roller rink and demands his book back, but the bullies claim not to know what he's talking about.
He doesn't just go to the roller rink to demand his book. He goes, sees that they're on the rink, and goes, dang it, I guess I have to rinse some skates.
Right, yeah, how are you going to get out there?
Go out onto the rink, even though they're on the edge of the rink where you could just walk to them.
That's pretty funny. The next day, he returns to the colonel's office, retracing his steps, and asks the secretary if he left it here, but she plays dumb. The second he turns to leave, she lifts the book onto her desk to continue caressing the bejeweled pentacle medallion. On his way to study hall, Coopersmith crosses paths with Sarge, who asks the kid if he stole any of Sarge's tools, and he flatly denies it before running away again. Now, Coopersmith sits down to the computer and starts typing out straight-up English language questions like it's ChatGPT. What are the keys to the kingdom of Satan's magic? It responds,
syntax error.
It responds, I, Esteban, have signed the Book of Death and touched the hand of my master Satan through the rite of the Black Mass. And then, after a moment, the words Esteban, signed, Book of Death, and Black Mass blink with a rectangle of highlight. Then another blinking paragraph. Book of Death, sign, Book of Death, Black Mass, Esteban, sign, Book of Death, Black Mass, Esteban, 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 Esteban. A bell rings, and Mr. Weston, overseer of the computer lab, rushes Coopersmith out the door to make room for the next kid with computer time reserved. For some reason, Coopersmith tries to ask the computer the same question about Satan's magic, and this time it answers, insufficient input, does not compute. I can only assume this means that the ghost of Esteban has supernatural knowledge of the time Coopersmith booked in the lab, but can't actually tell if he's sitting at the desk, so it stopped advising him when his time ran out. Coopersmith collects his things and switches off the monitor, but it turns itself on moments later, implying the next person who sits down will see what he was researching, consult the lab reservations, find out Coopersmith is a Satanist, but no, none of this happens. It just turns on for no reason. Yeah. We hard cut right to Coopersmith installing the same computer and monitor in his hidden chamber and plugging it into an outlet and a light fixture mounted to the wall.
So he's not allowed to use the computer in the computer lab, but he's allowed to take it.
I don't think he was allowed to. I think he took it.
Oh, he just stole. Okay.
Yeah. Coopersmith turns around after plugging it in and watches Sarge sleep on a cot in the corner because apparently Sarge lives here in the church basement and he's never stumbled across the entire satanic church within. It takes up more than half of the footprint of this building. Coopersmith flips through the biggest, oldest book from Esteban's small library and types the words he finds into the computer. On his desk, we see the same dragon figurine from Esteban's beach Black Mass pulpit from the beginning. Coopersmith DMs Satan to rescue him. Satan, hear my plea, and through the rite of the Black Mass, help me stand erect before my enemy and defy his curse. So, thinking ahead, I assumed he would get a monkey's paw scenario and have a hard-on in class or something, since he asked to stand erect before his enemy. What elements do I need for a Black Mass? Mandrake root, juice of aconite, poplar leaves, arsenic, sulfur, black candles, unholy water, consecrated host. So for our second installment of How Does It Taste, I've prepared a glass here to try this out. All right, give me a second.
Where do you get unholy water?
Quick question, though. Is unholy water just water, or do you have to get water cursed by a priest? And if so, why would he agree to do that?
Can you have this glass of water excommunicated from the church, please?
It's gay. This water is gay.
Isn't all water gay?
That's true. Coopersmith is able to locate most of these ingredients on the cobwebbed shelves of the chamber. The computer provides a speech for Coopersmith to read out loud.
By the dreadful day of judgment, by the face of the divine majesty, and by the four beasts before the throne, by the fire which is about the throne, I conjure and command thee, O Prince of Darkness, in the name of him who spake, and it was done, Satan, Lucifer,
Coopersmith?
appear forthwith and show yourself to me.
Weirdly, though, he's not reading it verbatim because he changes unholy majesty to divine majesty, which seems like a huge swing in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
And where it says beast before the throne, he says four beasts before the throne. He also says in the name of him instead of the name of he.
Are you him?
Are you he?
Why do all these rituals always end with like, Satan, I command you?
Yeah, it's like well, don't boss him around.
Yeah.
You're asking a favor. That's real rude.
You called me.
While he recites the words, Reverend Jameson wanders around the cellar calling for him. Turns out Coopersmith left out an ingredient, and the computer reminds him. Blood, consecrated host, data incomplete. Somehow, Coopersmith completely misreads this message.
Gotta have that unholy water, defiled host. Shoot. Gotta have it.
Even though the error doesn't mention unholy water or the word defiled. Coopersmith finally realizes Jameson is looking for him and comes flying out of the chamber to respond, tripping over the mess down here and crashing to the floor. It seems a week of cleaning has done very little good, and Jameson, a reverend, is weirdly pissed off about it.
Now, why isn't this place cleaned up?
It's a big job, sir.
I know it's a big job, Coopersmith. Look, it's getting late. I think you should run along to the mess hall and get something to eat, because they're just about finished serving supper.
The error message continues blinking on the unattended monitor, and Coopersmith goes to get a meal from the cafeteria. Do you guys recall the last time we saw a belated eater collect cold leftovers from a counter of stainless steel pans?
Was it McVicker?
It was McVicker. It's fucking cold!
Fucking cold! Thanks!
While he scoops the last few crumbs of vague meat product, Lenny Montana approaches as a character we'll come to know as Jake. Jake is holding a large knife, wearing a neckerchief and an apron, and that might be it.
Yeah.
He stabs the knife into a table and glares at Coopersmith. His sweaty shoulders and torso are clearly visible around the small apron, so he's not wearing a shirt, confirmed.
Yeah, I could just totally feel like that he showed up as like, yeah, we don't have anything big enough for you.
You're 8 feet tall, we forgot. I wasn't sure what exactly Jake's title would be, maybe cook, but I looked up the proper terminology for a cafeteria worker, and Google says Jake here would be called a lunch lady. To be fair, lunchman does sound fucking weird, so sure.
Lunchman?
Lunchman.
He's a lunchman.
He's a lunchman.
Jake makes Coopersmith a foreboding offer.
Come out with me.
We cut right to an insert of Jake cooking the boy a steak since he missed out on dinner. Oh, that's nice. Jake invites Coopersmith to a private table in the back of the kitchen and pours himself shots while he watches the kid eat.
You sure your mother and father didn't send you here just to get you out of the way?
My mom and dad were killed in an automobile accident.
Should have told me sooner. I would have given you an extra lump of mashed potatoes.
Coopersmith smiles for the first time in the film, and I already hate it. Don't do that. Jake makes an even more foreboding offer than before, but by now Coopersmith is on board.
You want to see something?
Jake takes the kid back to a storeroom where a dog and puppies are sleeping together on his shelf.
Perfectly up to health code.
Yeah.
Just puppies birthing in the kitchen.
Quick question. What did you feed me a second ago? No reason.
Were you with us when we went to that Titanic-themed restaurant?
Oh
and
my
there was
God.
Cats under the stairs?
No.
The whole building that the restaurant is in is shaped like the Titanic from the outside.
It's a boat. It's covered in like pictures of Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet. And they serve very questionable sushi. And they have karaoke.
Did they have sushi there?
Yeah, and we ate it, and it was probably not
I went there with you guys. I don't remember eating sushi.
I'm pretty sure we ate it.
No.
Yeah.
That's bad.
And there was cats. There was like cats nursing a kitten.
Oh my God, that's
stairs.
right. Yes, I do remember that. They were like, watch out when you go down the stairs. Like, they knew it was there. They were like, please don't disturb the cats that are nursing in our restaurant.
We got like a Lady in the Tramp situation, but it got real out of hand.
Yeah. It's just two cats eating opposite sides of a sushi roll until they kiss in the middle. Coopersmith worries aloud about the runt of the litter, but Jake says he can't make the pup eat food. Coopersmith offers to take it off his hands, but Jake says let it die. Coopersmith agrees that life sucks and maybe dying is best, but he sees himself in the runt, and Jake gives him the dog. To give it the best chance of survival, Coopersmith brings the puppy to a damp church cellar and locks it in a dark drawer without food.
Okay, well, you gotta stay there. I gotta go to work. I'm gonna put this right here. Now yell if you need anything. Stay here.
The computer reminds Coopersmith it needs blood. Great. Right now, do that.
Still waiting on that blood.
By the way, he steals a Eucharist from the altar upstairs, hoping that will work, and is scared back downstairs by ominous whispers.
No, the wine is supposed to be the blood.
Right? Yeah.
That's the body. You got
Correct.
it wrong, kid.
He flipped it.
But they do sometimes call the Eucharist the host, right?
Yeah.
It is consecrated host, yes. The computer gives him new words to recite, this time adopting Coopersmith's own count of 4 beasts. He improv'd that, and the computer was like, you know what, 4 is better.
It was like, here, just say just say this.
Just say what I wrote. We'll just get it once like I wrote it right off the page.
It's like, it don't matter. None of this matters.
By the 4 beasts before the throne, by the fire which is about the throne, appear forthwith and show yourself to me in beastly or in human form. This time the only deviation is Coopersmith changing yourself to thyself, which is fine. It's making it more old-fashioned. I like it. Good instinct. And then he adds a completely original section at the end that doesn't even appear on the monitor.
Come peaceably, visibly, and without delay.
Then he repeats the beginning of the script from earlier. This time he correctly says unholy instead of divine, but again he changes yourself to thyself. Nothing happens for a second, and then Coopersmith hears a grunting from behind a nearby door. He moves slowly to open it and follows the sound around the cellar until he is surrounded by figures in robes with masks. 4 of them crowd in around him, and struggling to escape, Coopersmith accidentally bashes his own head on the corner of a rock wall and knocks himself out. The masked characters begin laughing at him and remove the masks to reveal they are in fact Bubba and company. Of the 4, only Charlie Boy worries they've overdone it. When Coopersmith comes to, they're gone, and he's convinced he successfully summoned Lucifer into the cellar.
Far fucking out. It works.
The computer monitor suddenly displays an animation that draws an inverted pentacle, and the word Esteban is superimposed over the top, and then the picture shuts off.
It's so strange because, like, all this stuff about Esteban, when he's doing all his rituals, he's never mentioning Esteban. He's just...
That's true, yeah.
Like, it seems like he's
talking directly to Satan.
Yeah, it would seem like that you would... If Esteban is the one who wants to return, it would seem like his name would be the one you'd have to invoke.
Yeah. Or maybe he's asking the favor of Satan to send Esteban to save him. We cut to Coopersmith in the cafeteria crossing paths with Kowalski for the first time in a while, but Coopersmith can't talk because he has detention and then punishment duty, and then chores and then work and then a drill later because he's constantly in trouble for doing things like getting his alarm unplugged by bullies or getting his catapult disassembled by bullies. It's like he hasn't done anything wrong so far in the whole movie, and he's constantly getting punishment on top of punishment. Jake finds Coopersmith scrubbing trash cans and gives him a bag of bones to feed the puppy that Coopersmith has surely forgotten about completely.
Also, I think the puppy needs more than just bones.
Nope, it just needs blood. That's all. Coopersmith races back to his pet with the bones, abandoning his punishment duty, for which he will surely receive more punishment duty. I half expected Jake to pick up where he left off, but he doesn't. He just looks around for a while and he goes, seems like some kind of big mess this kid left. The camera tilts up and slowly zooms to a figure standing in the window of a bell tower, but we don't get close enough to see who it is. And so I don't care, because we never come back to this point. He surprises the puppy, now named Fred, with what he calls Jake Bones, but he looks like he gives him a meat patty. Why is this Jake Bones? Hey, Jake, if you have access to food that the dog will eat, why did you tell Coopersmith that you couldn't get the dog to eat? Coopersmith climbs a 9-foot bookshelf like he's Evie Carnahan in a Cairo Museum of Antiquities, but thankfully it doesn't all collapse this time. He just falls off of it on his own. His rough landing wakes Sarge, who wanders around for a while and then drinks himself back to sleep. Later, when Coopersmith is leaving the chamber, he comes face to face with Sarge at the door. Even more shocking to Sarge than the enormous room he could have been subletting to Satanists this whole time is the presence of his missing crowbar on the floor, which I don't think we ever bother explaining. Coopersmith admits to taking it, but did we see him take it?
I think he took it to pry open the bricks.
Okay. And then he just lied that he had it and he never returned it for no reason, even though he knew Sarge was looking for it. Sarge rants at Coopersmith until he notices the barking of little Freddy in the doggy drawer.
Jesus Christ, you got a fucking dog down here too.
He scoops up the puppy and positions his hands as if prepared to snap the dog's neck at a moment's notice. Coopersmith begs for the dog's life, but when Sarge just mocks him, he kicks the man square in the balls. The computer turns itself on, and the glowing red inverted pentacle fills the screen again. Sarge compliments Coopersmith's surprise trick and then makes a bizarre threat against the boy.
Now, I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show you how I make a little boy into a little girl. You wanna see that trick? There ain't nobody gonna hear you.
The computer comes to his rescue, and an animation spreads the star from the pentacle into a 3D column of spiraling stars as they go down. Sarge responds to whatever's happening as though paralyzed in pain. His head is turning against his will, and his nose and mouth gush with blood. The column of stars seem to represent Sarge's vertebrae, and as they twist, the man's head is turned fully backward on his shoulders. We get a creepy shot of R.G. Armstrong wearing his clothes backwards and padded specifically to make his head look backwards on his body. He falls toward Coopersmith, who cradles him to the floor where he bleeds out.
Is it still towards him if his head is facing the other way?
Oh, he falls toward him either way, even if he were facing the opposite direction. Esteban's logo flashes on the monitor again before the computer shuts down.
Esteban OS.
Now we cut to the construction of a stage for the upcoming Miss Heavy Artillery pageant. Colonel Kincaid is asking the coach if he's seen Sarge, and they can't seem to find the man. Hold on. This doesn't make sense, I know. Coach claims they were already looking for him in the cellar, but then we see Coopersmith running up directly from Sarge's internal decapitation. So I doubt they already realized he was missing, nor could they possibly have checked the cellar for him since he died.
Yeah.
Because he's running full speed from the death.
And wouldn't they just find him?
Yeah. But he is in the hidden cellar within, though.
I guess.
The colonel and coach won't let Coopersmith get a word in edgewise, lecturing him for his missing hat and his crazed hair. Weirdly, he doesn't stick around to get his message across and eventually just runs off embarrassed about the hat. Back in the chamber, he stumbles across yet another chamber behind a hanging curtain. This one's like a cavern, though. It's like a naturally occurring chamber.
Never thought to look behind this curtain before.
He tears it down.
This is like Hal Holbrook finding. He's like, oh, wait, there's other stuff in this hole. I stopped looking once I found this one thing.
I didn't notice the giant gleaming crucifix behind the diary. Coopersmith tears down the curtain and shines a flashlight inside to find more cobwebs and dozens of skeletons. Was like a whole satanic church just walled into this place?
Well, it seems like you had like the nicer part, which is where the dog is.
Right, yeah.
But then you just have literal caves with just bones on the ground.
Yeah. In the center of this new room is an enormous crucifix laying on the floor, and when Coopersmith brushes the dirt off it, he finds the word Esteban engraved across it. Seems like this should have been an upside-down cross, though, so his name should be the other way.
I was thinking the exact same thing.
But maybe this was made after he died, and the people who made it didn't care about his religious beliefs.
Is Esteban his first name or his last name?
Last name. His first name's Lorenzo.
Oh, Lorenzo.
No, it's Esteban.
Like of the Estebans? What? The Estebans? The computer flicks on again, and we get a quick insert of a pig or maybe a boar raising its head into frame on the way back to the home of Colonel Kincaid's secretary. She walks through her den and takes out the diary again. She retrieves a screwdriver from a drawer and goes to work attempting to pry the gems from the emblem, this time cutting herself in the process. The boars near the campus rage in their paddocks. She gives up and sits down beside a burning fireplace to strip down to a G-string thong before crossing her home to the bathroom for a shower.
She strips in the living room.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like you do.
And then walks to the bathroom to take a shower.
In your stripper clothes.
Yeah.
As she showers, we hear little hints of the croaking of boars, and she checks through the curtains for a source to the sound. She climbs out of the shower to open the bathroom door and is chased back to the tub by 3 enormous pig boars that climb in with her as she screams. They chew out her throat, and then, in her living room, Esteban's diary, which she could never successfully bust the gems off of, just dissolves away to nothing. It just disappears here. Why didn't I do this yesterday?
Glad we took care of that loose end.
Yeah. We get one last insert of a pig tearing a large strip of skin from the mangled corpse in the tub, and then it's back to the chamber where Coopersmith is dragging Sarge's body into the skeleton cavern, the secondary hidden chamber.
Mm-hmm. This is where you store the bodies, right?
Apparently. Sometime later, Kowalski surprises Coopersmith in the chapel upstairs, but is disturbed by the boy's weird trance-like state. He invites Coopersmith out to the Miss Heavy Artillery contest. And I guess he snaps out of it then. He's like, oh yeah, tits. Let's go. Who are these girls?
Yeah,
there are no women attending this military academy.
I thought maybe it was from like the academy across the lake, you know?
Are these instructors? Are they staff? Did they just grab women off the street and invite them to a boob off?
Well, wasn't there a game tonight? Maybe they're like came to see the game.
I guess, but where are they coming from? Just the surrounding neighborhoods?
I mean, apparently people go to see your local team
One
play.
of these 3 contestants was in the stands for the first soccer game, and he smiled at her, so apparently yes. Miss Patty is the first contestant to walk the catwalk, then Miss Baker, and finally Coopersmith's crush from that first soccer game, Miss Gallagher. By round of applause, Coach awards the title to Miss Baker, even though Miss Gallagher clearly won the applause-o-meter. But Baker wins, not Coopersmith's crush, Miss Gallagher, or my crush, Miss Patty. Wrong, Coach, wrong. Baker is awarded a bejeweled officer's cap and a fur coat. A dummy of John Paul Jones, namesake of the team they play tomorrow, is burned at the stake in effigy. Coopersmith seeks out Miss Gallagher in the crowd to let her know that he thought she should have won, but he calls her Miss Kelly. It seems weird to establish only her surname in one scene and then call her by only her given name in the very next scene. At first, she laughs him off.
No, really. I thought you should have won.
You really mean that, don't you?
I do.
The bullies show up to harass Coopersmith. They push a joint in his face and then threaten to kick him off the soccer team for indulging. When he tries to stand up for himself, they throw him to the ground and yank his pants off. At first, Miss Kelly Gallagher tells them to leave him alone, but then immediately after, she and her friend laugh at the pantsless boy on the floor and leave with the bullies. The bullies tell Coopersmith they will hurt his dog if he tells anyone what they've done.
You guys touched my dog. God help me, you're gonna get it.
God help you?
Esteban, help me.
Esteban, help me. Who? Nothing. He waits a weirdly long time to pull his pants back up and instead cries on the floor until the colonel finds him there and orders him officially off the team for whatever the fuck he's doing here.
Well, just kick him out of the goddamn school. Oh, I guess he can't because he needs the welfare money.
Why doesn't he quit the soccer team if he's not good at soccer and everyone on the soccer team hates him and pantses him and breaks his shit all the time?
I don't think he's allowed to.
He's not allowed to quit the team?
I think he said that everybody has to participate.
Oh, I thought everyone on the team has to play.
But I think he had a line
Maybe
about
you're right.
sports being good for you or something.
Yeah, he does, yeah. It's good for our characters. We cut to the chapel as the bullies and other girls push their way into the building with arms overloaded with beer. They sneak into the Sarge's quarters to pilfer more alcohol from his secret stash. Bubba starts dry humping Miss Kelly Gallagher against a wall in the cellar when they suddenly hear Freddie barking in the doggy drawer. They explore the space to find the puppy. Coopersmith shivers in his bed back at the dorms, while in the cellar, the bullies locate the secret chamber. These kids have the same idea as Coopersmith, to summon the devil with all these books about black magic. Charlie Boy finds the computer on the desk in the corner, and the monitor is still asking for blood. Right on cue, Kelly lifts Freddie out of his drawer. One of the kids finds Esteban's broadsword in the room, and Bubba notices the command on the screen asking for blood. The girls poke fun at Bubba for taking the message seriously.
Well, you see, so we need a sacrifice for the devil. You see, we need a little virgin blood. I guess that leaves you out, kid.
Bubba tears the dog out of her hands, and a sword from one of the other bullies, and they're suddenly all chanting.
Kill. 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 Do it. Kill.
Do you guys recall the last time we saw 4 bullies chanting kill, kill, kill on their way to killing?
Was it one of the birthday ones?
No, but it has the opposite of day in the title.
Birth night.
Birth night, that's right. No. What the hell? Yeah, this is birth night, and the feeling's right.
Prom night. No.
Yes.
Oh, is it prom
That was
night?
it. Yes.
Oh, God. Okay, good. I got it. Yay.
Remember, they're all crowding around the girl because they were playing like in the abandoned building, and they're like, kill, 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 and then she falls out of the window through a mirror. The blood request on the monitor goes red, and it drags its feet specifying human blood because the word human doesn't appear on screen until milliseconds after Bubba stabs the puppy to death.
Esteban's like, I thought it was implied.
So my exact note, basically. I picture Esteban on the other side of this computer going, what the fuck is this? I didn't think I would have to fucking specify. I want human blood.
Also, 2 people have died so far at the hands of Esteban, so you think, isn't that enough?
There's already a lot of blood in this room. The next morning, the school is wrapped in heavy fog. Coopersmith returns to the chamber and finds blood everywhere.
Brad? Fred?
He traces it to the doggy drawer and confirms that his beloved Freddy is no more. We cut to the locker room before the big game today, and Coach wonders where Coopersmith is at, apparently not having been informed of his removal from the team by the colonel. One of the bullies has another theory to explain his absence.
Where's Coopersmith?
Maybe you got the message.
Kowalski is concerned for his friend, and we cut back to Coopersmith, still dipping his fingers in dog blood.
We were a team, Fred. We were a team.
The computer pipes up in the corner. Human blood. I will return. The coach assures the boy that Coopersmith will be punished for the infraction of not coming to the soccer game, which was a punishment.
Yeah. His punishment was that he was off the team.
He's punished for complying with his previous punishment. He orders the team down to the chapel for a bit of god luck before the game. Kowalski asks the bullies for clarification, and they yelp like a dog to hint at what they've done.
One of them's got a really good dog bark.
Yeah, it's impressive because I was like, I looked away from the screen for a second. I was like, wait, what? Hold on. Oh, that was just him with his mouth. In the chamber, Coopersmith cradles the lifeless pup under somber music, and the computer continues to promise the return of Esteban in exchange for a proper human blood sacrifice. The Esteban engraving catches fire on the large stone crucifix, and the diary is suddenly there on top of it. Kowalski checks in with Jake in the cafeteria looking for Coopersmith. Maybe check the chapel, where he almost always is. We cut right there, and Coopersmith is at the front of the church, drenched in blood. Professor Hauptman sees the kid covered in blood and bloody handprints on the tablecloths. Coach and the team arrive at the chapel to pray before the game, just as Hauptman ventures into the cellar to follow the bloody cadet. The screen says, "To my Lord and Master Satan, I acknowledge thee as my God and my prince, and I promise to serve thee forever." Coopersmith taps like 30 more letters to type just his name, Coopersmith. Hauptman wanders into the chamber and finds Coopersmith using the computer.
Coopersmith? The devil do you think you're doing?
The computer still doesn't have the requested blood, but it grants Coopersmith the temporary power to lift Hauptman off his feet and toss him 20 feet in the air, where he is impaled on the spikes hanging from a chandelier. I would assume this blood would count toward the shopping list, but Sarge's blood didn't, so who knows?
Yeah.
Upstairs, Jameson preaches to the team.
Before you go out to play the game of your lives, little soldiers, I want to talk to you about another game. The game of life.
Jameson talks about God like he's the ultimate referee, and you can't sneak anything by him. I can't explain what's so terrible about this priest's acting throughout the film, except that I was convinced until the very end that it would turn out he was like an escaped convict posing as a priest in a small town and just making up everything he said. Coopersmith collects blood from the running faucet that is Professor Hauptman. He drinks it in and then calls out to Satan.
Satan! Satan!
The giant Esteban crucifix cracks in half and light pours out from inside. The monitor reads, "Data complete." And then, Coopersmith is sent through the Stargate from 2001: A Space Odyssey, except instead of random shapes, we see topless women floating around in the void.
It's like a Maurice Binder
opening. Yeah. Esteban's face is suddenly projected over Coopersmith's so that Richard Mole's face is basically photoshopped onto Clint Howard's body.
I like this effect.
Yeah. I wanted the monitor to come back on and say, "Different person, please. Data incomplete again." Esteban speaks in English.
Imbue these creatures with your strength and force. Let them avenge me, and I will pledge my soul to you and serve you for all eternity.
Just as Jameson wraps up his sermon upstairs, we get close inserts of the Jesus statue on the crucifix over the altar, and the tendons in its arm twitch. The hands are struggling to pry themselves loose from the crucifix. Black blood drips from the wounds of stone Jesus. When Jameson sees the black blood dripping into his Bible, he looks up, and a nail works itself loose from the statue and buries itself deep in the Reverend's forehead. Do you guys recall the last time we saw a part of the Jesus statue at the head of a church attack the priest within?
Was it demonoid?
That's right. What part was it?
What do you mean, what part was it?
What part of the Jesus came off and attacked him?
Oh, the hand?
That's right, because it was posing as the part of the hand. In the cellar, Coopersmith seems fully possessed by Esteban and raises his broadsword. Upstairs, Coach and the team are panicking. They try to leave, but the doors won't open. A blast of air is aimed right in Clint Howard's face, nearly blasting off his toupee, and a giant pig monster face is superimposed over his, with flames above its head. He raises his sword by the hilt and seems to trigger an enormous mushroom cloud explosion upstairs. His teammates fall to the ground sobbing, and suddenly Coopersmith, eyes wild, hair crazed, shirt bloodied, levitates up out of the new hole in the floor and floats around the room, sword in hand. He drifts right up to the colonel and swings his sword down, wrenching the man's head in half. The pigs are somehow here too now, oinking through the chapel and eating them alive. Bubba starts hopping pews to escape like he just won an Oscar for Life is Beautiful and closes himself in a neighboring room. A pig nose crashes through the door, biting down hard on Bubba's shoulder and trying to pull him back through the hole. He barely gets away. Coopersmith catches another bully and promptly beheads him. The coach tries to crawl away and eventually gets another head slice, and definitely the best looking fake head the entire film has to offer, because this just looked like that actor's head on the floor. It was incredible. Another of the bullies tries to sneak through the window in a confession booth, but the pigs catch him and drag him back through the window. Bubba heads down to the cellar and tries to hide in the secondary cavern chamber with the broken crucifix.
Sure.
This is the best possible place to go.
The last place they would look was where they came from.
Yeah. The demonic dead end in the basement. He is suddenly face to face with the zombie of Sarge, who lifts him high in the air and then plunges a hand into the boy's chest to rip out his still beating heart.
So he can show him how black it is before he dies.
Yes. Kalima Shakti De. The crucifix at the head of the chapel tips forward through the flames, and we dissolve to a dark and practically unrecognizable room. An epilogue of text reads, "Suffering from shock and catatonic withdrawal attributed to his having witnessed the fiery death of his friends and teachers, Stanley Coopersmith, sole survivor of the tragic accident at West Andover Academy Chapel, was admitted to Sunnydale Asylum. He remains there still." The computer monitor suddenly flips on in the dark room, and maybe it's back in the computer lab? I can't tell. What is this room with the computer in it? It's so dark in here. The inverted pentacle fills the screen, and then text. "By the four beasts before the throne, by the fire which is about the throne, by the most holy and glorious name Satan, I, Stanley Coopersmith, will return. I will return."
But he's not dead.
No, but he will be. But we saw Esteban saw Esteban say that he would return when he was still in Spain, and then he started a church and did a whole bunch of shit after that.
Did Esteban return?
Yes, that's what this whole scene was. Esteban came back and cut everybody's heads off.
So, but then what?
Then what?
like why would Esteban come back to cut these heads off and then just go, okay,
because that was his
I'm
mission.
done?
That was what he was paid in
consecrated
blood and
yeah.
on holy water and shit. Coopersmith's face appears in a computer graphic style, mostly red, but with a green band across his eyes like a Bizarro Raphael. By the way, if you belong to the other religious university meant to play against this team today, how certain are you in your faith when you hear that the other team was slaughtered in their chapel by a series of insane freak accidents? It's like, oh, it's just like a fire, I guess. The doors malfunctioned and all their heads came in half and off of their bodies.
And eaten by pigs, apparently.
Yeah. How did they get in there? Just, pigs. Pig Bible.
Well, I'm pretty sure John Paul Jones won that soccer game.
There you go. Just Kowalski out there on the field by himself. Is he even on the team? I don't know. He's in the locker rooms with them, but he wasn't playing at the beginning.
He's everywhere.
Yeah.
He's literally any scene where he just needs, like, I was almost certain that this wasn't even a real person. This is like, hey, buddy, you want to get me that blood?
It is weird that his last scene and Jake's last scene is him running into the cafeteria and going, hey, where's Coopersmith? He's like, I don't know. The end. All right, that's a wrap on Kowalski, everybody. We're shooting in sequence, and that's the end of the story for your characters.
Yeah, and for Luca Brasi.
Yeah, very weird. But yeah, that's Evilspeak. It's actually a lot of fun. It takes its time getting there, but the third act is really enjoyable, I think.
Don Stark.
He's so great.
He's got the smuggest face, and
that's Bubba.
I know.
Oh, okay.
I looked him up because oh my God, he looks so familiar. And I realized he looks so familiar because when he's young here, he looks exactly like a young Prince Charles.
A lot of people were saying that he looks like Christian Bale, which I also see a little bit.
No.
Look at him again and you'll see
but
it.
He's got the goofy look with the ears, but he's also got the big nose.
Big narrow nose,
he's he's very Prince Charles.
Yeah.
But then I realized that he was from that 70s show.
Right,
I'm like, oh my God, like I can't take him seriously in this movie now because I just
want him to have a fro the whole time.
Yeah. And somehow wrangle a Bond girl.
Yeah. That's crazy. That was his wife on that show.
I thought the movie was okay. Like you said, it was a lot of like him just being bullied, bullying bullies, like,
right.
And just the guys are just like the bullies are really chewing it up. Like, I mean,
right.
like, they are just like psychotic in their love of torturing.
I do feel like they go overboard to a point that I'm not even sure if we're supposed to think that they're possessed by somebody, because when they're killing this dog, it's like at one point all the guys are like, well, I don't want to do anything like that's against the Bible, and one of them's like, hey dude, I think we're going a little too far, and then suddenly they're all like, kill with this adorable puppy, and it's like, what the fuck just happened to you guys? You guys all turned a weird corner all of a sudden.
Yeah.
But the rest of the movie, they feel like more natural, like real bullies from the real world. But yeah, it gets nuts. And even like the whole school staff are bullies, even though they keep saying like, you're super, like you're crazy smart. We tested you. You're really smart. And if you applied yourself, you would be so successful, but fuck you. And you go to detention forever.
Yeah. I feel like Hauptman shouldn't have been the sacrifice. I feel like it should have been Kowalski.
Sure.
Because that would have been the ultimate sacrifice for Coopersmith to make. Like,
right.
He's my only friend, literally my only friend in the school, maybe other than Jake. And
what about Fred? Fred is his only friend.
Well, Fred is dead at this point. Freddy's dead. No. But I feel like that would have been a more impactful sacrifice for him to be all in committed to this.
Yeah, for sure.
Because Hauptman was semi-decent to him.
Right. And he's the one who was like, I really think you'd be doing better if you took this class more seriously.
Yeah.
And he seems to care about the class because he's like using the computer to design his catapult and everything.
But other than that, yeah, it's fine.
And from what I understand, the original draft of this, the Garofalo draft, was just a Carrie ripoff that was a kid finds a book about Satan and reads about it and starts collecting things to call Satan. And then it was the rewrite with Weston that introduced the computer stuff. He was like, oh, it's the 80s. We need to have like a gimmick to it. And I do like the look of the computer stuff. I think for 81 or 82, whenever they were shooting this, that it actually looks, well, obviously they were shooting in 80 also, that it looks decent. Like, I was kind of impressed by the quality of these animations for what I expected this film to be. A lot of that is because it's Warner Brothers.
Right.
And it's not like an independent thing like it looks like it is from the beginning. But I loved the look of the stars turning into, Sarge's spine and then cracking his head off, and that stuff is cool.
I think that for the head chopping in this movie alone, it's worth watching.
Yeah, it's a thumbs up for sure for me.
Yeah, it's definitely a thumbs up. I think there's enough wackiness at the end that it totally redeems the kind of meh story.
Yeah, it is a little repetitive in the middle. But the other thing that I thought was a funny little attention to detail thing is that the prologue is written in the Evil font, and the epilogue is written in the Speak font.
Oh, very clever.
So it's like they're doing a transition.
We're continuing.
Sort of. Yeah.
We're passing the torch here.
I would love for this to get remade though now.
That'd be great.
Some kid like finds this old Apple II. He's like, I don't know, maybe there's some Bitcoin on this. And it's like, I don't think you know when people were using Bitcoin. That's crazy that you would think that. And then he opens it up and it's got Clint Howard in there. Comes back, kills everybody. Anyway, I tried pitching a sequel to Clint Howard. It didn't go well, so we'll try it again later, though. If we ever get him on the show, I'll bring him in and talk about it. But yeah, thumbs up for me, thumbs up for Jess. Richard, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a thumbs up.
Wow,
I know that's like counter.
I was not expecting that.
Yeah, because the gore wasn't too excessive because
right.
Like a lot of cutaway. Like I mean, it was
you
see the heads cut open and split, but it doesn't linger on it. I think the most grotesque thing actually was the girl getting eaten by the pigs.
Right, that last shot.
That last shot was like, oh boy, that's some nightmare stuff. But otherwise, just the practical effects were like really solid. And like you were saying about the computer effects, like when it was like just like basic computer stuff, it was like it's really believable that looked like a computer of the time. It wasn't trying to be like super fancy and modern,
right?
Like that. No, this felt like a real computer, and the graphics were obviously not computer graphics, but looked good.
Well, that's what I liked. They were actually like well designed. It wasn't just like cheap text over lines. It was like, oh, they made a cool design out of it.
Right.
Yeah.
And it felt like something that you could make maybe in that time.
What are we thinking Letterboxd for this one?
That's a great question you ask. So I actually have it fairly high, but there's been a lot of clunkers this year so far. I have it at 11 out of 29. I have it below Jaws of Satan and above The Beast Within, which just, it feels like it fits right in that category.
Richard?
I have it at 13, also below Jaws of Satan, but above The Aftermath.
I have it in 14, which is just under One from the Heart and just above A Stranger is Watching. Our writer-director here was Eric Weston. This was his first writing and directing credit. I didn't recognize much else, but in 87 he co-writes Beaks the Movie with Rene Cardona Jr., so that's probably fun. The story and writing came from Joseph Garofalo. He also produced a Flesh Gordon sequel, specifically Flesh Gordon Meets the Cosmic Cheerleaders. But as far as I can tell, he is not related to Janine. I did check.
Yeah, I did.
The music here comes from Roger Kellaway. He previously scored 13 All in the Families, the 76 A Star is Born, 79's The Dark, and so far on the show, he has scored The Silent Scream, Running Scared, and Jaws of Satan. The cinematographer here was Irv Goodenough. Nothing else I recognized, but he does go on to light Extro 3, Watch the Skies, which I didn't even realize there were 3 of those movies. I thought that ended it too. The editor here was Charles Titoni. Before this, he had an editorial department credit on Day of the Animals and Capricorn 1. After this, he edits Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers, but not much else. Clint Howard played Stanley Coopersmith. Insanely, this is our first film for Clint Howard. How have we not encountered Clint Howard before? Even as a teen, Howard was visibly balding, and to play this character at 22, he would need a toupee, but when he showed up to set, they told him they wouldn't have one for him. He had to provide his own. So he had to leave and buy a toupee to play this character. We just saw his father Rance a few films back as an angry rancher in Chinatown, and Clint has credits dating back to child acting credits in The Courtship of Eddie's Father, The Andy Griffith Show, The Fugitive, the original Star Trek. He voiced Roo in the Winnie the Pooh shorts and I think the first feature. He also voiced the baby elephant in The Jungle Book. Later, he has credits in Eat My Dust, Grand Theft Auto, Rock and Roll High School. He's in a couple Happy Days episodes, obviously. After this, he's in Night Shift, Splash, Cocoon, Gung Ho, Parenthood, Backdraft, Apollo 13, and basically everything else directed by brother Ron Howard. He's in The Wraith, Tango and Cash, Carnosaur, Leprechaun 2, and perhaps his biggest starring role as the titular Ice Cream Man in Ice Cream Man. He has memorable cameos in the Austin Powers films, The Waterboy, Little Nicky.
I remember him like in a random episode of Seinfeld where they need a ride from the police. They put him in the back and he's a criminal that they've already previously arrested in the back. And they just start making small talk with him.
That's great. I met Clint Howard when he hosted the student showcase at the Academy of Television Arts and Sciences, where I presented my film school senior project entitled Fridge, a dark comedy short about two men who win a refrigerator at a police auction and become convinced over the course of a week that it is haunted. Clint Howard confessed to me that my film was his favorite of the four that played that night. But he was also in one of the other three, so he might have told everybody that. We hung around in the lobby well after the presentation, where I pummeled him with unsolicited pitches for an Ice Cream Man sequel. He was like, sure, here's my information. He gave me like contact, and it was his actual email address and phone number, but he never replied to anything I sent him. So his loss.
Trying to think
all
of
of our losses.
Yes.
Trying to think of a good like ice cream pun.
The second scoop.
I was gonna say like rum risen.
Oh my God. That's great. R.G. Armstrong played Sarge. His audition went well enough that he was offered his choice between the Sarge and Colonel roles, and I think he chose right. He should have played the drunk, crazy person. He's awesome. We've seen him now as the judge in Where the Buffalo Roam. He's Rigby in Raggedy Man, Dempsey in The Pursuit of D.B. Cooper, a government agent in Reds, and Doc Schoonmaker from The Beast Within. I think of those, Rigby in Raggedy Man is the one that sticks in my head the most. Like, his performance is so great in that when he's talking about, oh, it's about the company. And he's like trying to defend his actions and lying to her and keeping her at this job that was ruining her life. But he's really great. I've really loved him in everything we've seen from him. Joe Cortese played Reverend Jameson. We saw him last in Windows. Later, he's Rasmutin in American History X. More recently, he was Philadelphia mob boss Don Sal in Season 3 of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Season 3 means that's, 35 years ago? That show has so many seasons somehow. Somehow it's been going longer than The Simpsons, which has started 20 years after. Claude Earl Jones played Coach. We saw him last in Used Cars. He's in TV movie Dark Night of the Scarecrow. Later, he's in Cherry 2000, Bride of Reanimator, and he appeared on Seinfeld as Mr. Bevilacqua, Jerry's high school gym teacher.
Oh, yeah.
Haywood Nelson played Kowalski. He was Haywood Marshall, grandson of Grady on Sanford & Son, and then he joined him as a series regular on the short-lived spin-off Grady, but he's probably best known for playing Dwayne Nelson on What's Happening and reboot series What's Happening Now. Don Stark played Bubba Caldwell. Before this, he was Hook in Switchblade Sisters. We'll see him next in Peggy Sue Got Married. He's in the second and third Three Ninjas movies as two different characters. He voices Rhino in 7 episodes of the mid-90s Spider-Man animated series, but he's definitely most recognizable as Bob Pinciotti, neighbor of the Foremans and the father of Donna on That 70s Show. He also recently reprised the role in a handful of episodes of That 90s Show, which I haven't seen any of yet.
I've only seen clips. Seth Green comes back.
Seth Green? Was he even on the original show?
Yeah, he was on. He was like a guy who's trying to steal Donna away from
Eric?
Eric, yeah.
Yeah, I don't even remember that. Charles Tyner played Colonel Kincaid. He's in Cool Hand Luke, The Reavers, The Traveling Executioner, Harold and Maude, Jeremiah Johnson, Emperor of the North. We've seen him now in The Longest Yard, where he gets maybe my favorite line.
Beat it, Unger. Fuck off!
He's also in Pete's Dragon.
Yeah.
Hamilton Camp played Hauptman. He has credits back to the mid-40s. He's in Nickelodeon, Rabbit Test, Heaven Can Wait, and Star Crash before this. We've seen him now in Rhodey, All Night Long, and S.O.B. Later, he appears in Meatballs 2 and Dick Tracy. And in the 90s, he transitioned largely to voice acting roles on Tiny Toons, Chippendale Rescue Rangers. He's Fenton Crackshell / Gizmo Duck on the DuckTales. He's Greedy Smurf. He's in the Gummy Bears. He's in James Bond Jr. He's on Darkwing Duck again as Gizmo Duck. He's also Meteor Burt in Joe Dirt and Pratt in Almost Heroes.
A lot of his characters are German.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
And like, as far as I can tell, he's not actually German.
No, I don't think so either.
But he does this like really generic German accent so well.
Yeah.
I think that he's like Kenneth Mars.
Yeah.
It's like Kenneth Mars, we just need you to play your character from Young Frankenstein again.
Yeah. And his name Hauptman is literally the German word for captain, which makes me think that they're trying to imply him as a sort of like retired Nazi or reformed Nazi. Jim Greenleaf played Ox. We've seen him so far in Gorp and Carbon Copy. Later, he's in Joysticks, Surf 2, and Toy Soldiers. Lynn Hancock played Miss Friedemeyer. Her only other feature was called Goodbye Cruel World, also in '82, but it's not on our list because it only got a limited release, but maybe that'll get a minisode later. Loren Lester played Charlie Boy. I went to high school with a Loren Lester, but she spelled it differently because he's Loren. Before this, he was in Rock and Roll High School. Later, he does a lot of voice work on shows like G.I. Joe and Jim. He played Rick Gordon in an animated series called Defenders of the Earth for 66 episodes. He's also the voice of Jordan Knight on the New Kids on the Block animated series, but he's probably best known for voicing Robin in 30 episodes of Batman the Animated Series, and more recently he appeared on the Orville for an episode. Kathy McCullen played Kelly. Before this, she was in Big Wednesday. We've seen her now in King of the Mountain. Lenny Montana played Jake. One of his first roles is his best known as Luca Brasi in The Godfather. Since then, he was mostly typecast as large mafioso types, so this is sort of a departure for him. So far on the show, we've seen him in Defiance, Battle Creek Brawl, and All the Marbles. He's back later this season for Pandemonium and Bloodsong. Go ahead, Richard.
Nope, not going to do it this time. As soon as you said it, I wanted to, but I am not going to.
Just an old-fashioned blood song. Catherine Kelly Lang played Susie Baker, the winner of the contest. Before this, she was in Skate Town, USA, and a few other credits I didn't recognize, but she's definitely best known for playing Brooke Logan in 6,392 episodes of The Bold and the Beautiful. 6,000.
Wow.
That's crazy. That's like on the edge of like the Vanna White Wheel of Fortune numbers that we have.
Well, because like if you say 365 days in a year times 10 is only 3,600. 10 years is only if you did an episode every day.
Right. That's crazy. Richard Moll played Father Esteban. We've seen him now in American Pop, Caveman, and Hard Country. He's back this season in The Sword and the Sorcerer, and next season in Metal Storm: The Destruction of Jared Sin. Later, he's in Dungeon Master, House, and 193 appearances as Nostradamus Bull Shannon on Night Court. He's also in Sidekicks, Loaded Weapon 1, The Flintstones. He appears alongside Evilspeak co-star Loren Lester as the voice of Two-Face on Batman the Animated Series. And sadly, I think he passed away like just before they started mounting this Night Court reboot, right?
Yeah, maybe like a couple months or...
Because I remember like within that year right before it started, like Marky Post passed away and a couple other people. And it was just like, oh man, this Night Court reboot isn't going to happen if they lose any more people. But it seems like it's doing okay.
I have not watched any of it.
I haven't either, and I haven't watched any of the Frasier one, and I'm a bad person for that because I should support both of those shows. But
Richard Moll on the animated series, because they did a great job because Harvey Dent appears as Harvey Dent several episodes before he becomes Two-Face.
And he's both of them?
Yeah, he does. He voices, and he also voices a couple of, I think he's the voice of the computer, Batman's computer when it talks occasionally.
He's got a great voice, though. I was watching, there's a behind-the-scenes featurette for this movie, too, and you can just tell from the first time he says a word, it's like, yeah, this guy's obviously making a fortune voice acting. Robert Tafer played the old priest. He has credits back to 1943 in For Whom the Bell Tolls, and later Going My Way, Gilda, Mighty Joe Young. This was his final feature film appearance. Susie Casey played Mrs. Caldwell. She has credits back to 46 in films like The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, An American in Paris. She was uncredited as Sunbather in Rear Window. She's in the 54 A Star is Born, Breakfast at Tiffany's, Camelot, and Paint Your Wagon. Deborah Dawes played Attendant. She was Game Show Girl in History of the World Part 1. DeForest Coven played Janitor. He has credits back to 36. He appears with the Marx Brothers in A Day at the Races. He's also in Day of the Locust, Rocky, New York, New York, The Incredible Melting Man. We saw him last in Cheech and Chong's next movie, and he's back this season as Gravedigger in Honky Tonk Man. Jane Barthelmy, or Bartlemy, I'm not sure how to pronounce this. She was a girl student. She has mostly producing credits on titles like RoboCop 2 and 3, Sleepless in Seattle, Legends of the Fall, and more recently producing TV series like 13 Reasons Why and Dopesick. I think that's everything for Evilspeak. If you have any thoughts you'd like to share, you can find all our socials at linktree/vintagevideopod. If you enjoy what we're doing, consider giving us a review on iTunes. I don't believe it helps visibility, but it's good for morale. And if you really like the show, maybe you should join our Patreon at patreon.com/vintagevideopodcast. What's that sound?
We got one!
That's right, it's a new patron, Pat Stahl. As a $5 patron of the show, Pat now has access to 53 full-size 70s reviews and a hand in choosing next month's film. For August of 1974, our $5 patrons are choosing between the following 12 titles: 99 and 44, 100% Dead, American Grace, The Black Godfather, Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia, California Split, The Castaway Cowboy, Confessions of a Police Captain, Dead of Night, The Girl from Petrovka, Harry and Tonto, Macon County Line, and Newman's Law for a 50th anniversary review next month. Thanks so much for listening, and I hope you'll join us next time when we'll be discussing Green Ice, which IMDb describes like so. A down-on-his-luck engineer gets involved in an adventure with a mysterious woman and an emerald magnate. We leave you now with the trailer for Green Ice.
In these mountains, men and women scour the caves and rushing streams for one of the most precious stones in the world. 95% of the world's finest emeralds come from Colombia. The government gave up trying to control them years ago. They turned it over to a private concession. The lure of a fortune in little green stones you can find in the mud makes no friendships. You can get rich or get shot.
How do you know the Senora?
We met while I was drowning. Why?
I like to know better the man I find in the early hours of the morning with my fiancée.
You've quit a lot of things in your life, haven't you, Wiley?
Yeah, and I started a lot of them, too. You took my money, didn't you?
I thought you'd stay longer.
Why? Because you think I'll do anything you want?
No! Because I think I love you.
Is it not ingenious to have my fortress in the sky instead of the usual hole in the ground? $60 or $70 million worth. And tomorrow there'll be more.
I could break into your building blindfolded.
Prove it.
$60 million in the sky. An impossible goal, a breathtaking adventure. Green Ice tells the story.
It was the girl.
No, it was you. You let them rob me.
Get him up! No! He said go. Now come on, let's get the hell out of here.
Let's go!
It's too late! It's over! It's over! It's over! It's over! It's over! It's over!
Green Ice. It may leave you with a chill.